All right, everyone, welcome to today's podcast. We have a very special guest, a commentator. You might know him from the Pancrase events. You saw him on the last Quintet, Fight Night 3. He's done Knockout. He's currently doing the Rise World Series. What else have you done, Stewart, as far as commentary?
I did a couple of JMMA shows, which is the Moat Fights thing that started a couple of years back. Really cool idea. Actually, the idea was born from Genki Sudo. He did an outdoor event, which was basically jiu-jitsu at a temple in North Tokyo. And all the referees had the hakama and the traditional wear on, you know. He only did a couple of them, and then JMMA came out, and yeah, that was like some old school Tekken stuff, you know. People were loving that. So I did a couple of them. They've kind of gone quiet recently, but I hear they just announced another show coming up. I don't
For people that don't know, there is no cage or ropes, correct?
That's right, yeah. It's a huge, big circular mat. And the circumference is a moat, of course, a padded moat. And it's filled with dry ice, you know, the smoke. So it's got a really, really cool vibe to it. And the fighters come out through a kind of shrine gate.
Yeah, I've watched some of the events. They're really entertaining. As we get started, I wanted to go to your backstory a little bit. You were born in Scotland?
Yeah. Born and raised in the UK. In Stirling, actually, the Central Belt, which is known as the gateway to the Highlands. It was like the last castle that the English had to beat in order to gain the territory in the north, you know. So there was a few big battles there, and I actually went to Wallace High School, which is named after William Wallace, as you maybe know from the film. So yeah, it's steeped in history. I moved through to Edinburgh to study after high school, and from there I worked a couple of years, and I just wasn't really feeling the office jobs and, you know, the rat race. I thought there was something else out there for me, so I started looking for other ways out. And long story short, I ended up in Japan in 2001, January 2001.
You went to Japan to teach English?
Yeah, I originally got a job teaching English, and it was a year contract. So, you know, for me, it was like, okay, a year out. I wanted to teach anyway. I was actually going to teach in Spain at the time, but the opportunity for Japan came up, and it just clicked in my head. I was like, okay, I can work there for a year, see how it goes, and I can train in the home of the martial arts.
Oh, okay. So as far as training, you were already aware of, it wasn't really mixed martial arts at this time. It was Valley Tudo. What was the first fight that you had seen? What inspired you to want to train?
It was actually Matt Hume versus Eric Paulson.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was called Extreme Fighting or something like that. One of those old 90s things with almost no rules, no weight classes. You know, the guys just showed up. Carlos Newton took on an absolute monster of a guy. I forget his name right now. Huge guy. But yeah, it was Matt Hume versus Eric Paulson that really opened my eyes, and I was like, okay, these guys are not just fighters. These guys they're savvy. You know, they've got skills. They're trained, and neither of them at that time looked particularly big or, you know, aggressive looking or anything, you know. And that's what really turned me on to it. I thought, yeah, this is amazing that these guys have skills.
And this was something you rented on VHS, or?
It was a flatmate of mine. It was a guy I was living with. He had it. He was like, check this out, Stu. This extreme fighting. And then the graphics came on. It was really cheesy. And I was like, oh, man, this is crazy.
Okay, so you get to Japan, and I mean, I guess I could call it a stroke of luck, because me being such a huge fan of Pride, this was right after Pride 12, I believe. and you linked up with the Takada Dojo. How did this happen?
Yeah, that was something else. I mean, I'd been here for just 3 months, maybe 3 months in, and I was seeing a girl at the time. I had a girlfriend, and I was talking to her about the martial arts and stuff, and I mentioned Sakuraba, and she says, "Oh, my brother knows Takada. I'll see if I can get any links there." And I said, "Yeah, please. If he can get me some private lessons with Sakuraba, I'll pay, and I'll go and do some private lessons." So little did I know, Sakuraba doesn't do private lessons or any of that stuff. But Takada was very kind enough to get back to us, and he said, "Okay, right, meet me." So he came straight to a yakiniku restaurant straight after Pride, actually, and he said, "Why do you want to do Vale Tudo?" You know, he was still calling it Vale Tudo then. You know? Why do you want to do Vale Tudo? And I was like, "Well, I've been training, and I think it's great. You know, I'd like to see, you know, if it works." I wasn't really thinking about competing at this point, you know. Just the love of the sport, you know. Just everything was so new and just evolving so quickly. So yeah, he said, "Well, come along to the dojo, and you have to take a physical test, but that's standard. Everybody has to do that. But I think you'll pass, and you know, if so, I'll sponsor you. You can come and live with us, and all you have to do is cook and clean and look after the senpai, or the seniors."
Mm-hmm. And how old were you at this time, Stuart?
24.
Okay.
So I just turned 25 by the time I entered the dojo.
And did you know the significance of what was going on here? I mean,
I knew it was big, of course. You know, Pride was big. I knew. Yeah. Yes and no, because of course, looking back now, in hindsight, you know, the significance is even bigger now. But at the time, it was just big. You know, this was the biggest. It was the most famous dojo around, and you know, the link with Pride and all the fighters. You know, Rico Rodriguez had just stopped training at the dojo there, so I didn't actually meet him. He'd left by the time I came in, but that was, you know, just a matter of months.
And Takada was still competing in Pride.
That's right. Yeah, but he was still, yeah.
And so, as far as I've read up on this a little bit, but for fans that don't know, they put you through this training test, maybe as you called it. How many people started in this?
Well, I had no idea till I showed up, and there was 6 of us, and so we're all competing for, you know, a spot on they call it uchideshi, which is live-in student.
Okay.
Basically the same idea as sumo, really. So yeah, 6 guys there, 5 other guys, and so they weighed us in to check our weights, and then we just got started on this absolutely grueling set of tasks.
See, and reading through this, you kind of described it as a set of tasks that was kind of impossible to actually achieve.
Yeah. These are not designed for anybody to be able to do. I mean, you could spend months and months training and you know, get somewhere near being able to look good doing them, but they're not designed to be completed with any kind of pride intact, for want of a better word.
How many days a week were you doing this?
Oh no, this was just one physical test.
Okay.
And then they tell you then and there if you passed or not.
Oh wow.
So halfway through, 3 guys give up. They're just like, "I'm done. Nah, can't do anymore." And I looked over to my girlfriend at the time. She was like, "You all right?" And I said, "I have absolutely no idea where I am right now. My head's spinning." I'm in the middle of doing 200 star jumps or something, you know. So yeah, 3 guys out the door, and all the while the other pros that are there, you know, Sakuraba and all the other guys, they're kind of taunting the guys taking the test. "You said you were tough, you know. Come on now. Get on with it, you know? So, one guy crawled out on all fours. He crawled out. This is in a basement gym at the time, and crawled out on all fours.
Wow. So this was grueling. I mean, I assume this was hours into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, surprisingly, I think it was only about an hour and a half. But when you're doing stuff that's just so brutal, an hour and a half is forever.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 And so I figured that you felt like maybe if I could just outlast these guys, that maybe I'll have a chance, or.
Well, yeah, all I knew was I had to keep going. You know, you just got to keep going. You got to show your heart. Just got to show that you can keep going. It doesn't matter how good you look. You know, you're flapping around like an absolute maniac. But if you show that you're not giving up and you keep going, then that opens a few eyes. But little did I know that there was going to be a sparring session at the end. So the three of us that were remaining, they pit us against each other. It was only grappling, of course.
Uh-huh.
I tapped the two guys out really quickly, and that's really what did it for me, you know.
Wow. And this was your first time meeting Sakuraba?
Yes, yeah, that was first time. Yeah. So it was kind of surreal, you know.
Yeah. Did you feel immense pressure? I mean, knowing who he was and knowing where you were at.
Only at first, but once you get started, it's like in a fight, you know. There is pressure before a fight, but as soon as the bell rings and you get started, there's a kind of everything goes kind of clear and white, and there's no sound or anything. You're just in the moment, you know. So yeah, I didn't really feel any pressure after that.
And so this gets completed, and then what happens after this, after the sparring and everything?
Yeah, so they say, well, when can you come, kind of thing, you know. So the other two guys, they were like, well, we can start straight away. I was working at the time, so I had to give a month's notice. So I wasn't going to break my contract. So I said I'll be here in 4 weeks. So in that 4 weeks, the other two guys had started and already quit and left. So I showed up, you know, and I was like, "Where's the guys?" One of them ran away. One of them lasted a week. The other one ran away in the night.
Wow. And you know, just as a reference, did you ever see these guys ever again in your life?
One of them, yes. He is now a referee, and he has his own dojo. Hell of a nice guy. He's called Ota, Mr. Ota. He referees for Pancrase. So we occasionally reminisce on those wild times.
And I'm sure the other 5 guys are somewhere in the corner crying just because, you know, they seen the opportunity you got from it, and if they could have just lasted it out, you know.
Yeah, just gone with the wind. Yeah. There was one other guy, a young guy called Shimizu. He came in later. He took the physical test later, and I got to watch this. So it was kind of strange being on the other side of it. He joined, but he didn't last. He was a karate guy, and he just didn't last. The wrestling was just too heavy for him. And he went on to become the Rise heavyweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's more of a light heavyweight, but yeah, he's a big lad now. Yeah.
And so after this, you decided to have an amateur fight.
Yeah. Well, I stayed with the dojo until the following year, and then there was some other external factors that made me leave. So I left, and I joined Genki Sudo's team. So he had a team called Genki Daigaku, which is called Genki University. So the team was called GGG, and there was a few of us. Because obviously I'd left the dojo, I didn't have somebody with the connections like, you know, Takada to get me into King of the Cage or whatever. So my only way to get a pro fight was to win an amateur tournament. So I had to join a couple of amateur tournaments, and I won the amateur tournament out in Osaka in 2002.
Are you looking at some kind of plaque or something that you have on your wall there? Or?
I don't know where. I've got something somewhere. Yeah.
Oh wow! And so at this time, I mean, I assumed you learned a whole bunch in this year. What you said that? What led you to Genki Sudo? How did you get that opportunity?
That was actually a link through the Takada Dojo. One of the guys who had joined Takada Dojo and left before me, he was good friends with Genki, so they invited me along to train. So that was how that started, and that was how the connection with RJW, or Real Japan Wrestling, which was all connected to the Wajutsuki Shukai network. So that's where I did most of my training in those years after that, with the Wajutsuki Shukai guys here and there, and which eventually led to me training with Okami.
And while you were at the Takada Dojo, you weren't just training; you were also, like you said, cooking and cleaning, and you were kind of a low-level guy that did it all.
Yeah. It was old school sumo style. So old school, well, basically from the sumo style into the old school pro wrestling style. So we had to get up in the morning, go to we call it the Chanko room. I don't know if you watch Chanko. It's a hot pot that the sumo wrestlers eat with all the meat and vegetables in it.
Okay.
We had to go to the Chanko room to cook for the lunchtime, get everything ready. Then off to the dojo to start our morning. It was called a morning menu, but it was basically more of that hellish stuff, like 500 squats, 50 squat jumps, 200 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, all of that stuff. Middle of summer as well, and 2001 was one of the hottest years on record.
Oh.
I'm from Scotland, Zach. I'm no tropical man.
Right.
I was basically, after my 500 squats, there was this pool of sweat around my feet. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
It gets really hot in Japan, from what I understand, correct?
It does, and it's not just the heat; it's the humidity. It's brutal. Yeah.
See, I'm from
the day kind of went like that.
I don't think I could handle that. I'm from the mountains of southern Colorado. 80 degrees is hot for me, and we have dry humidity here, but not that moist humidity. Oh, I'd have been one of those guys that crawled out the first day, probably. Regretted it the rest of my life. And so you win this amateur tournament, and how long after did you get a pro fight, and how did that happen?
It wasn't too long after. I think it was just a matter of months. 1 or 2 months, actually. It was pretty quick. I got the call. And I was offered to fight in Demolition, which was a precursor to DOG, which was a precursor to Cage Force. And this was all the Wajutsuki Shukai network owned promotion. So Demolition I fought in March 2003 against Yukiyasu Ozawa, who I'm now very good friends with.
Wow.
The connections you make out here, and it's one of the wonderful things about the martial arts out here. The bonds are very strong.
I find just from the outreach that I've had and some of the people that have given me their time and being so generous, it's a different culture. I mean, one that I'm learning, but I don't really understand coming from America. I've lived in the United States all my life, and people are full of ego here, and nobody's looking to help anybody else out. Nobody wants to lend anybody any time. Nobody even cares to get out of your damn way. Here. You know what I mean? And so speaking with some of these Japanese fighters and the commentators and everyone that's been there, it sounds like it's just a different society. Would you say? I mean, would you compare you've been to China, Singapore, places like this? How would you compare Japan to the other Asian countries?
Japan is even in itself, in Asia, it's very unique. It's very peculiar. Even in Asia, you can go around to various Asian countries, and the cultures are slightly different. Of course, the language is different, the people are different, food's different, and whatnot. But there's some similarities. Japan is really, it's very, very unique in its societal structure and ethos, outlook on life, and just way of. Just general way of living.
You know what's interesting about that? I have a friend, his name is Guy Harriman. He invented the Ajna light. I don't know if you've ever heard of this device, but it's a 10-watt LED bulb, and it's a meditative device, I'd say. You lay under this, 10-watt LED bulb for as long as you want, and he's got about 10,000 presets on his iPad. And it helps, you could do the alpha or the different kinds of brain waves, and some of them can be real extreme. I mean, almost like a hallucinogenic trip or something like this, or some of them can be real relaxing. One of the things he mentioned to me was that in countries like Japan, they only require about 25% intensity of this light compared to countries like America, which is really interesting. And I don't know if that comes from, is the schooling in Japan, are they meditating in school at young age?
No, there's none of that, but it's very regimented, it's very well controlled. So, the kids know exactly what's expected of them.
Okay. And the reason I mention this light is because, like I said, the intensity has to be so high. And this guy's traveled the world. He lives in Thailand. And he said the intensity has to be so high for people here in the West compared to places like Japan and Thailand and places like this. So much so to where he was able to do rooms of 75 people with one light. And he developed this. You should look into it. I'll send you some links. It's a really interesting device. It really helps meditation. I mean, literally, you could go from anxiety or stress or something to laying under this light for 5 minutes, and everything is totally different. It doesn't have to be so intense. I mean, people can have intense experiences, but it could also just be a meditative thing to calm you down. But he's done it in rooms, he said, in Thailand of 75 people, whereas that's not possible here in the United States. He said that, I don't know if it's the attention span, but anyway, I'm going to send you some info on that because it's a really interesting thing. And if you're ever in Thailand, I'll link you up with this guy because it's a device he actually invented before the 10-watt LED light was even invented. He came up with the idea. Yeah, really, really, really interesting stuff. Dr. Dennis McKenna, I don't know if you know of him. His brother was Terrence McKenna.
Yes, yeah.
He was kind of a cultural leader in sorts, out in San Francisco in the 60s and 70s. But his brother went on to school anyway. He introduced me to him, and I've tried this light a few times, and I could tell you that the closest thing I could say is it'd be like taking a drug without taking a drug. And it's just slow flickering flashes. But anyway, I'm going to send you some info on it. And I'd like to talk to you about that more after, maybe you could try it. There's places all over the place that he has certified people to use these lights.
Oh, really?
But yeah, anyway, I just wondered about that. And so your first pro fight, did you win that fight?
No, it was a split decision. Yeah, as probably anybody you've spoken to who has ring experience has told you, training and fighting in the ring are completely different. You get a wake up. You get a wake up call. So the first round. The first round was kind of back and forward. He was trying to throw me. I managed to take his back. He got me off his back, back on the feet. And then at the end of that round, that basically went to the end of the round. It was a bit of a tussle. Second round, I came out straight into the Muay Thai clinch and threw knees into his face. Bust open his face. They stopped the clock. The doctor checked him, and they let it go on. So we're back at it, and yeah, his grappling was superior to mine at the time, and yeah, it was a tough one, but we went straight to the judges, and yeah, split decision. So it went in his favor.
Was this in a ring or a cage?
This was in a ring, yeah. So it was, it was that first experience of being in a ring with all the lights around you and all the people and stuff.
You know, and I don't know too much about your pro MMA career. I know you only had, what, 6, 8 fights?
Yeah.
Why so short, Stewart?
I was plagued with some really bad injuries. Of course, all of us deal with injuries. You know, there's very few guys out there that are, injury free. I had some pretty bad ones. I had to get an operation on my knee, and I took like a year or so out, and just kind of lost my momentum. And I realized that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough to keep going, but not enough to want to be a champion. That was, I just loved fighting, and I loved the journey of learning new stuff, finding out what works, finding out what doesn't, and training. So when I realized that, I was about 30, and I met my now wife just before that, I realized I wanted to have a family as early as possible. And there's no way I could support them on the fight money,
Right, especially then.
Yeah, I mean, especially then, the fight money was just terrible, So, like, hats off to the guys who are able to stick that out, and live on very little money and food and stuff. But for me, it was all about, I want to have some money. I want to have a family. I still want to train. This is still part of my life, but I prioritized that instead. So that was, in the end, my last 2 fights. My son was about 2 years old.
This was 2010?
Yeah. And my wife was pregnant with our second. So, yeah, I'd had until then, so I thought, right, I've got to end on a high note at least. So my last 2 fights were knockouts.
Nice.
Not really a career to talk about, not big names, big shows or anything. But for me, my son was there watching my last fight, and I finished the guy in 35 seconds. And I felt good. It felt good.
And so his training right after that, it filled that void? You never wanted to fight again?
No. For 2 years, I was fine because I switched my attention to strength and conditioning training. Because, back in the day, we had none of the information that's out now for prehab and rehab and injury management and, looking after your shoulder health and joints and whatnot. So, once I realized that there's this information, I was like, okay, I need to learn this. I need to find out about this. So I got heavily into strength and conditioning, weight training, put on some good muscle, felt good again, got over my old injuries and stuff. And then that was about 2 years. And then I started thinking, dude, you're still young. You're now bigger and physically stronger, and you've still been training. So you have experience and you know more.
Yeah.
You just fight again. You could just do another couple, It did cross my mind, but there was a period of, okay, I'm done. My daughter was born, my second kid was born, and new phase of my life started. But yeah, it did come back to me. It did come back. It's not something
for anyone that has kids. I have a 16-year-old. That's so much responsibility that it's almost like the things in your life are secondary to taking care. I mean, taking care of kids is hard, especially when they're infants. That's a job in itself,
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. And not taking anything away from, career-focused guys who spend a lot of time building huge, successful businesses and careers and whatnot. But if you miss those years, if you're not there for those years when they're kids like that, you don't get them back.
Right.
That time doesn't come back. So, I have no regrets. No regrets at all.
Are you done having children, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. Well, we would probably have another one, but yeah, two's fine.
You mentioning those early years makes me question if I will ever have another kid. I mean, I've been telling myself for years, no, she's 16, almost done, she's going to be a junior next year. But then I hear things like that, and I remember how important those years were and how special they were to me as well. You're molding another person's mind in a certain way that, I mean, I couldn't imagine letting someone else do it, number one.
Right.
But then I look out there and there's plenty of children who need to be adopted. And so, it's a hard thing to do, but I could give a piece of advice, as I'm sure you've got to be stable and financially, mentally before you have any children. I had a child at 19 and I was not ready, And then I got into a horrible accident after that and broke my hip and rib went through my lung, and that made it harder. And so I think there's some of those things that keep me from having another child. But then I hear something like you just said, and it's like that thing clicks to where it's like, I'm getting older. Maybe I'll want to have one more, So if I do, I'm blaming you, Stewart. Let's just say that.
It's a huge amount of motivation as well, Like I said, those last two fights when my boy, well, the second last one, it was his second birthday. The last one, he was there cage side. It's a huge amount of motivation. I mean, the power you get knowing that your boy is watching you compete. There's nothing really. I mean, you can have a strong team behind you. You can have that willpower in you. But when you have that other life that you made looking at you, looking up to you, nothing rivals that.
I can't imagine. I mean, my daughter's never really gotten to see me compete on a high level, but basketball tournaments here and there. But because of my injuries, I had to pretty much end that career. But watching her compete, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. I don't miss a basketball game if I have a choice. I'm there, and it's not anything selfish. Some people live vicariously through their kids. I just want to watch her. It's exciting to me. I don't even, I'm happy to be there. And so I guess it goes both ways. Well, back to fighting. So you finished your pro career. Had you learned Japanese by this point?
Yeah, well, actually a month before I came out to Japan, well, the job was decided really quickly. It was that I only had 4 weeks to prepare, really, before I flew out. So I bought a book to learn 2 of the basic alphabets, if you call it. They're not really alphabets, but there's 3 forms of writing here, and I started learning 2 of them before I came out. And I'd mastered one of them just as I came out, but I couldn't speak, I only knew how to say konnichiwa and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. So the writing was easier than the speaking for you?
No. One of the alphabets is quite simple. There's only like 52 syllabic sounds.
Oh, okay.
Compared to English, it's much more minimal in that respect.
And did you know any other languages before this?
I studied French. I spoke a little bit of French in my younger years. Took a short course in Spanish in university. German also in high school. So I've loved languages for years. Yeah.
Wow. So how long would you say that it took you to speak? Because you speak Japanese pretty fluently, correct?
Well, see, the crash course living at Takada Dojo was that made your learning curve just go like that.
Yeah.
Of course, the listening comes first, so I could understand a lot more than I could produce at first. But once you start producing it, then within basically a year, I was able to have simple conversations about daily life, and then within 3 years, I had a fair amount of confidence in most situations.
So if you had to advise someone like me, I went to school with a couple exchange students for all 4 years of high school, Japanese women, and they taught me quite a bit. It was actually part of my interest where it kind of peaked in Japan and how I kind of found out about Japan MMA, which at the time, like you said, wasn't really MMA. What would be your advice for someone like me who I'm really interested in learning the language? I know some Spanish. And like you said with Spanish, but I always have my grandmother and people to speak it to me to hear it all the time. What would be your advice? To listen to a lot of it first?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, listening is really important. So there's two things I would say. The first one is when you're learning the language itself, you know, sentence structure, vocabulary and whatnot, don't start using the alphabet. Don't write the words in, they call it romaji,
Mhm.
you know, basically alphabet. Go straight from hiragana. Hiragana is the foundation of the Chinese characters, the kanji.
Right.
If you go straight in through hiragana, the process is so much smoother. You get it so much more quickly.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that enables you to pick up the vocabulary and stuff more quickly. For listening, music's a good idea. You know,
Wow. Wow.
you can get you know subtitles, karaoke, and stuff like that. You know, there's always you can read it at the same time.
Well,
And
I find from, so for example, the Rizin Confession series, I watch them before they put up the subtitles, you know, and just from watching so much Japanese MMA, and then sometimes there is no commentary, you know, that's in English, and so I'm forced to, and so I'm starting to understand some things, but it's not. Lenne Hardt told me that it's not as difficult as people make it seem. I always was under the assumption that it was one of the most difficult languages coming from English. But
oh yeah, for sure. The grammatically and the written language and reading is really difficult. I mean, it's supposed to be up there with like one of the top two most difficult languages in the world. I believe Finnish is maybe another one of them. But apart from that, the actual speaking and listening is not so difficult because the accents are not so strong. People don't use such a wide variety of slang between towns and cities. It's very standard on TV, and yeah, you can pick it up. Like I said, much more
would you
easily.
say it's pretty uniform compared to like I said, Spanish has so many different variations. I mean, Portuguese is almost a variation of Spanish. The people that speak Spanish from Mexico are different than people from Spain, and both sides of my family, one side of my family is from Spain, the other side from Mexico, and you know, so would you say it's more uniform than a language like that?
Very, yeah, very
Okay,
uniform.
okay.
There's not too many.
Well, hopefully I'll be talking to you in
I
a
mean,
matter.
there are like.
What?
I was just going to say there's only like four major dialects, and there's not a massive difference between them.
Well, hopefully in the next few years you'll be talking to me, and we'll be speaking some Japanese to each other. So, had you attended any Pride fights during this period? Pro
Pretty
fight?
much all of them, yeah. So when I joined the Takara Dojo, that was the day after Sakuraba fought Rampage Jackson for the first time.
Pride 12.
Yeah, where he almost threw him out the ring, you know. It was,
Yeah.
and he ended up submitting him. It was incredible. So I watched that and I joined the gym the next day. Well, I moved in, let's say.
Oh, so you lived there full time?
I lived there. Yeah, I was living there. I had to. Yeah, so they have the dojo, they have the chanko room, and then they had a kind of living quarters for the deshi or the kohai, the juniors.
Uh,
So yeah, it was all in one area.
and did Takata live there as well, or?
No, he lived in his own house, of course, but you know,
Okay.
he would come in and we would all eat together in the chanko room every day. So after training, everybody would go back to the chanko room, but we'd have to go back first to get everything ready, you know, to feed everybody and wash the clothes as well and stuff. So yeah, there was never a dull moment.
Wow, and so you got to attend all these prides. That's amazing, because these were some of the you know, the beginnings before it even hit the American audience. I'd say, you know, we didn't pick up on it here. I mean, even rentals until maybe Pride 15, 20, you know, they weren't readily available like that. I mean, maybe the first one I saw, just because I got lucky, I couldn't even remember, but same person that sent me some of the Outsiders DVDs, you know, years later. And that was crazy. I was like, whoa, what in the world's going on there? Because they were picking up kids. Outsiders was picking up kids on the street that were troublemakers and just putting them in a room, you know?
Yeah, like, you want to fight? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm such a big fan of the Asakura brothers. You know, I mean, those kids are absolute warriors.
Yeah.
As far as Pancrase, you got this job because of Lenne Hardt. How did you meet Lenne Hardt?
Um, Actually, just through social media. I knew who she was, of course, and she knew who I was through Facebook and social media. And, yeah, so as soon as she heard about it, she let me know, and she thought that I was right for the job, and I was like, yeah, damn right, this sounds great.
Not to take away from your talent, because you're so talented, but geez, you've had some luck, Stewart. I mean, you know, from going, you went right to the Takata Dojo to meeting Lenne Hardt to, you know, Pancrase. I mean, Lenne Hardt is nothing but a kind lady. I'll have her on the upcoming podcast we've recorded already, and she, what an amazing woman she is. I couldn't speak high enough about her. She's also taught me so much about the culture of Japan, and you know, a lot like yourself, corrected me at times, which I really appreciate because I'm trying to respect everybody. And like I said, where I come from, there is no respect. You know, it's not high up on the ladder of what people care about here. How familiar are you with the States?
I was out in Georgia and Florida back in 2000, the summer just before I moved to Japan. I had a friend out in Atlanta, and my sister was living in Florida at the time. So I went out for a month. That was my first time, actually.
Wow.
I've been to Hawaii, but of course, that's not mainland. And the only time I've been back was the Quintet 3 Vegas show in October last year.
Wow. So only twice in your life.
Yeah. So I'm not particularly familiar, but of course, you know, in the UK, we grew up with American culture, you know, TV, movies. It's nothing foreign to us, but it kind of felt strange for me going to America and feeling a bit like a foreigner, you know.
Right. Yeah. So would you say that you're familiar with the MMA landscape here in America as it pertains to the fans?
Reasonably, yeah. I mean, I've kept my eye on the UFC over the years.
Why do you think Americans have never gotten into kickboxing?
That's an interesting question.
Because let me tell you, as a kid, it was on ESPN2, you know, 30 years ago, 25 years ago. It was on ESPN2 every Friday night after boxing, late at night. I watched it all the time. And in modern day, you get the UFC fans that complain about too much wrestling, delay and pray. You know, they want the stand-up striking wars. Kickboxing is that perfect medium between boxing and delay and pray wrestling. I fail to understand why it doesn't connect with the crowds here. I just cannot, for the life of me, understand it.
You're right. There's probably a few different factors there. I would imagine one of them is quite simply marketing. Nobody's bothered to actually market it as a sport. You know, had they tried and done some heavyweight tournaments like K1 did, we could be having a different conversation right now.
Yeah.
The other thing is maybe with striking in the States, it's people who generally practice striking are more maybe orientated towards a sport aspect of point karate or taekwondo or something like that. So there's never really been a general public interest for training in, you know, Muay Thai or, you know, kickboxing as such.
You know, that's an interesting, and you know, I know you don't have all the answers to everything, but that's an interesting thought that I hadn't really thought of, because I watched, let's just, for example, the first round of the Rise World Series. What an event that was! I mean, right? I mean, I was just enthralled the whole time, and for me, I'm up late at night watching it, but it doesn't matter what time. You can watch it the next day if you wanted to. You know, and I got to ask you this question before I forget. And everyone needs to watch this semifinals, July 21st, I believe. Tenshin, who everyone knows, of course, now, is going to fight Suakim. And they fought before at knockout. You called that fight, correct?
Yeah.
and it was a pretty close fight. I mean, it was a decision, I think, unanimous. But what would you say about this second fight? Do you think Stewart Kim's gotten that much better? I mean, because his first round was something else.
Oh yeah. This is what makes it so exciting, because Stewart Kim's no joke. He is absolutely no joke. He's legit competition for anybody, let alone Tenshin Nasukawa. So, yeah, I'm going to be watching that very closely. You know, on paper, and in everybody's hearts, Tenshin's probably going to take it. But as you know, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Well, I mean, his first round opponent was this Taliesin Gomez Ferreira that just fought at Rizin.
And he's excellent.
And beat Taiga, who I've been really high on Taiga ever since I've watched him in K1. I don't know, maybe you have some insight to this. I don't know why he hasn't showed how good he is. Do you feel that way, same way?
Yes, yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. You know, with a lot of these guys, their expectations, you know, everybody around them has expectations. They know what they can do. But sometimes they just can't put it together on the spot when the lights are on and everybody's watching. And it doesn't mean that they can't do it. It's just they haven't found that switch yet. They haven't found their groove.
Well,
you know?
And he's young, 22 years old or something. But I tell all my friends about him, and then they go and watch him, and he's, kind of lackluster. I mean, self-admittingly, he's been disappointed in his performances since probably his last K1 fight, to his Rise fight, to his Rizin fights. And, so it's like, but there's just something in him that I've always seen that I feel like he's way better than what he's shown.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he had a close fight in the first round of that Rise World Series, but how did you get that gig as the Rise commentator? Because you had never done any Rises before, did you?
No, that's right. They hadn't done the English broadcast for the World Series until this year. So, yeah, that was kind of funny, because the director that I work with in Pancrase and Quintet, he was like, "Oh, I need to talk to you because there's Rise next month, and I'm probably going to ask you to do it. You'll get some official offer soon." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll block my schedule out." And it's getting closer and closer and closer, and I'm not hearing anything. And everybody's still saying, "Oh, you're doing Rise, right? Okay, we'll see you there at Rise." And I'm like, "I've not received any offers yet." So it was just a kind of given, it was a given that I was going to be doing it. And of course, at the last minute, I spoke to the management and we sorted it out. I said, "Yeah, I'm down, I'm in." So yeah, I think it was just the sake of, they already knew me. They knew what I could do. So it was a no-brainer for them. And
and I think, kind of like we were talking about kickboxing earlier, that kind of stuff, you're such a good commentator that I think that kind of stuff is what can help the American market. Fight TV is doing a really good job putting on some of these shows. I try to watch the Rise numbered series, 131, 130. These were all good events. I mean, even the Evol series that they're doing are really good. How much time do you have to watch MMA in your free time? I mean, surely you have to study it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a full-time job, really. Watching stuff and rewatching stuff. I look back on if guys haven't fought for a while, I'll rewatch their fights, even fights that I've called of theirs. I'll go back to on UFC Fight Pass or whatever. Just to look for little nuances in their style and how they might have evolved and integrated new techniques. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Right now, I'm spending a lot of time watching grappling instructionals to get a little bit more of the finer points, because Quintet's another beast altogether.
that was your second quintet, or?
No, no. All right. So just to set a few things straight here, because there's a few people are confused about the numbering of quintet. So that we have the number series, which are focused on global events, bigger shows.
Right.
And then there's the fight night shows. So
Right.
right now we've done 6. We've done quintet 1, 2, and 3, and we've done quintet fight night 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Fight night 3 being the all-female event. Just a couple of months back. So that's something that I think there's a little bit of confusion about.
And how many of those have you done in total then?
I've done all but 1. I didn't do Quintet 3. I was over in Vegas for Quintet 3, but I didn't commentate Quintet 3.
Okay, that's what confused me.
Yeah. I was actually announcing with Lenne that day, so that was a huge honor for me. And a lot of pressure. I was really nervous for that. Although on paper, it should be easier than commentating. I felt a lot of pressure because I'm sitting next to Lenne, and she's a legend. She's helping me out and stuff. She's great with advice and whatnot. But it was funny. She's kind of nudging me and saying, "Relax." I'm like, we're getting this right.
Well, and it's a little bit quieter of an event, I'd say, and you did a remarkable job at this last one. Let me just tell you, especially because what was it, the week before you did the Rise? I mean, such a contrast, and I mean, even the way that your vocal range can be, you can be a lot more hyped when the crowds are hyped, whereas Quintet is kind of they're not loud crowds.
Yeah.
So you did a remarkable job. The fans have had nothing good things to say. The all-female was amazing. I was hoping that the Deep Jewels team could have stayed in it a little bit longer because I really liked what King Reina brings to the table.
Yeah, she's always exciting.
Always really good. Let me ask you, what was your first Pancrase? What was
So that was November 2015, Pancrase 271.
Why did they start? They started numbering them at. Let me see. I got this. They started numbering them at 244.
44.
But that was actually the 266th event. Right. So kind of like Rizin has done as well. I mean, they've done the. Rizin 1 wasn't until after the Rizin Grand Prix of 2015, right? Mm-hmm. They did Rizin 1 in April of 2016. So you started, what day did you say that you started? What?
Yeah, that was in the November show of 2015, 271, Pancrase 271.
271, okay, so you've done quite a bit of them. Let me ask you real quick, the bantamweight champion, Shintaro Ishiwatari, what is his injury? Why is he vacating the belt?
Right, yeah. So it was, I believe it was a neck injury and some really bad nerve damage, which was causing him a lot of trouble, and it was lasting for a long time. He wasn't shaking it, and every time I spoke to him, he was like, I'm trying my best here, but it's not going very well.
You think he's gonna have to retire?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. But I don't know how severe it is at this stage. But yeah, he had no alternative really but to vacate the title, which is
I'm a big fan of his, and of course he fought Horiguchi in the 2017 Grand Prix final, and held his own. And his story was quite interesting in the fact that he lost to Horiguchi 4 years earlier, and kind of spent that 4 years building towards Horiguchi and then hasn't fought since then. Did he sustain that injury in that fight? Do you know? Or in that Grand Prix maybe? Because he hasn't fought since 2017, end of 2017. Did I lose you there, Stewart?
Yeah. I think I've got you back now.
Okay. Did you get my question there?
No, you finished off at building towards Horiguchi.
Well, that was the last time he fought was the 2017 Grand Prix finals against Horiguchi, which of course he had fought 3 times in 2 days. You know, and I'm a big fan of Shintaro. Did he sustain that injury during that Grand Prix? Are you privy to this information?
No, I believe it was way before that in training.
Oh wow! So he was fighting in that Grand Prix hurt.
I believe so. Don't quote me on that, but that as far as I know, that was the case.
And what about Rin Nakai? She also has not defended her title in a long time.
Yeah, you know, I was actually talking about her recently. I asked someone, I said, "Where's Rin Nakai? Where is she? What's she doing?" You know,
Right.
you know, somebody like that just can't disappear easily.
No.
So yeah, I believe she's making some kind of comeback soon, but not in Pancrase.
Oh really?
As far as I know.
I know one of the last fights was at Deep Impact 82, something like that, I believe. I mean, so it's been quite a while since she's fought in general. I know that Deep and Pancrase have shared, you know, some fighters. I mean, going back and forth. What do you think one championship's involvement with Pancrase and Shudo, is that going to change the flexibility of these fighters to be able to go to other organizations? Do you know that?
I don't think so. Could you be more specific with the question?
Well, I mean, for example, someone like Rin Nakai, who, you know, was fighting Pancrase, then going to Deep, then going to Rizin. You know, I mean, fighting for all 3 organizations. Rizin, as you know, wants to kind of be the World Cup of everything, and wants to get fighters even from the UFC, which is never going to happen because, you know, we all saw Dana White cry when Chuck Liddell got the shit beat out of him at Pride. You know, you know, so I don't see that happening. But I'm just wondering if you think that if it's going to limit these fighters from fighting for other organizations at all.
I don't see any limitations at all. In fact, I see the complete opposite. It's giving them more opportunities. They're not being shuffled directly in one direction. They still have options on the table. It just makes it better for the fighters because they have more options and they have bigger options now because one's a big player, and they're doing good things for the sport. So, yeah, I don't see it as limiting at all.
Well, and the reason I asked that is because President Saki Guevara came out recently and said exactly what you're saying. One is doing some great things for the sport, and he was the one who wondered what these contracts are like and hoping that it doesn't limit the flexibility of these fighters. And that's why I'm such a huge pusher of Rizin too, is because it's been a long time since we've had a federation that allows all these different entities to come together. I mean, in an ideal world, it would be awesome to see the UFC champions compete against the Deep champions and the Pancrase champions. You know, that would be what a fan like me wants to see. Do you see that happening ever?
Yeah, you're right, man. It's not just the fans. The fighters want that. I mean, you ask any of the champions if they get an opportunity to fight on a show against other champions from other organizations, they will jump at it because they want to prove themselves against the best around. So that's a win-win all round to me. But yeah, going back to your point about one, I mean, if they were to sign with one, then they wouldn't be able to fight outside of one until that contract's done. Okay. I would imagine.
So one's involvement with Pancrase and Shudo is just it's not. They don't own them.
No, it's basically just it's a mutually beneficial deal. I don't know of course the details of the contracts. That's not my business. But if the fighters if they get the offer from one, then it's on the table and it's a it's a big opportunity for them. But as far as I know, they're in no way obliged to take it and to shun any other offers on the table. Look at young Horie. He's still very vocal about, he's fighting in Pancrase and he's doing really well. And he's still vocal about wanting to go to the UFC.
Right.
The other lad, Takashi Sato, he makes his UFC debut this weekend. He's over in the States now with Chonan.
Who does he fight?
And he was, sorry?
Who does he fight this weekend? Do you know offhand?
Who's he fighting again? That's a good question.
God, he's a good fighter.
He is, yeah. And you know, he had King of Pancrase welterweight champion written all over his future. You know, no doubt about that.
See, and that's what I worry about is going and signing an exclusive contract with someone like the UFC, and that's what I love what Bellator and Rizin are doing is because we are getting to see the best versus the best. I mean, Darian Caldwell against Horiguchi was one of my favorite fights of last year. And, you know, not just because it was cross-promotion, but it was a fight I've wanted to see. You know, I would have loved to have seen Henry Cejudo against Kyoji Horiguchi or, you know, I mean, like you said, some of your Pancrase champions belong fighting some of the champions of the UFC, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that some of these organizations are not looked as highly. You know, I asked you about the American landscape and how much you knew. I could tell you from living here, most people think the UFC is the cream of the crop every division. And I disagree completely because, number one, Gegard Mousasi fights for Bellator. And I believe he could go anywhere in the world and compete with anybody in the world, as he's shown, you know. And so I, you know, that what's that? I can't hear you.
He's a phenomenal martial artist.
Oh, you got to see him fight live, I assume?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. He's great. Yeah, he's just so fluid, so relaxed, and he just has so many tools in the bag that he can pull out.
He's one amazing fighter. And you guys at Pancrase have recently abolished the super heavyweight category. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, not really officially abolished. You know, there may be something materializes down the line, but right now there's not enough in the division to make it viable.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about in just Japan in general, from light heavyweights and heavyweights. Is there just a shortage in Japan, would you say?
Yeah, few and far between. And, you know, the guys that walk around at light heavyweight, they won't fight at light heavyweight, of course. They'll drop to middle or welter, as you see with Okami and whatnot. Tatsuya Mizuno also. Yeah, there's just not that many. It's a damn shame, but that's just how it is.
It is a damn shame because I know Deep Impact has put on some pretty good shows. I did a podcast with Rocky Martinez, who I've watched this guy train. I've watched him fight. You know, kind of like the way Fedor, you look at Fedor's body, it looks like kind of a dad bod, right? You look at Rocky Martinez and you don't think his best attribute is his cardio. But if you looked at his body, you would not, and I've told him this to his face, you would not guess that. But that is his very best attribute. It's crazy.
It's the old adage, isn't it? Never judge a book by its cover.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
And
just going back to the Sato thing just now, it's Saunders. He's fighting Saunders on the 27th.
Oh, Ben Saunders. Wow. Geez, that's going to be an interesting fight.
It is, yeah, for both of them. It's quite pivotal.
What is Sato's record?
What's he at just now? 14-2.
Yes, that's going to be a tough one for Saunders. You know, I was telling someone else recently, and I don't know how you feel about this, but records in Japan don't mean as much. You look at someone like Minowa Man, who's going to fight at Pancrase 305, by the way. Or 305 or 306?
306.
That's just amazing. I mean, but you look at him at one point in Pride, I think he was 8-8. Nobody gave a damn about that because he was fighting bigger guys. He was always entertaining. You know, here in America, too many people look at records. You look at boxing, you lose once or twice, and nobody gives a damn about you.
Right. It's a damn shame people get discounted just for a number or two numbers. You know, it's madness. But out here, you're right. The records don't mean a huge amount because at the end of the day, the culture of martial arts, the fans, the viewers, the practitioners, it's all about the warrior spirit. It's all about showing your heart. It's all about giving everything you've got even if you're a complete underdog, even if it looks like you've got no chance of winning, they'll still be behind you. They won't look at your record. It's not important.
Well, and then for someone like me, I'll look at record, but in the way of competition. Who has this person fought? Then I go there and I see that they fought Yuki Motoya and they fought, all these amazing fighters. Well, no wonder why you've lost 6 times. You've been fighting the best of the best, I mean, I did another podcast with Victor Henry, who's the deep bantamweight champion now. And
Victor.
Oh man, and that's why I asked about Ishiwatari. Do we know who's going to fight for that vacant title?
For the bantamweight?
Yes.
What's happening there?
Because he hasn't officially vacated it yet, or has he?
He has. He's publicly stepped down.
Okay.
So I think it's. That leaves a few things open in the division there.
Yeah. Well, by any means, I don't want to press your mind too much. My point is that you got your guys' top 3-4 bantamweights. I'd love to see someone like Victor Henry, Yuki Motoya against them. I think those matchups are amazing. In Pancrase, in Rizin, in Deep. I don't give a damn where it is.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see that. Of course, Rafael Silva, he's holding
the interim title
right now. Yeah, but as you saw when he challenged Ishiwatari, he didn't have that inner warrior that Ishiwatari has, and that's taken nothing away from Silva. He's a phenomenal fighter, but in the eyes of the people, we know that there's other people ready to challenge him and do some serious damage.
Well, and that's why I just hope the best for Ishiwatari, and I hope he comes back. I know he's 34 years old, but I mean, that guy is so talented and so amazing. Every time I watch him fight, he's exciting. That's the other thing. I mean, some of these fighters, like we talked about, it's like excitement. That's what the fans are looking for, right? Yeah.
I mean, take you back to that fight I just mentioned with Rafael Silva challenging Ishiwatari. Ishiwatari lost the first 3 rounds basically. He was getting smothered. He was getting manhandled. And he wasn't able to do anything. And he came out in the 4th and 5th round, and he just, I don't know what he pulled out from the inner depths of his soul, but he was not having it. And he showed everybody what a real champion was in that last 10 minutes. And honestly, I mean, anybody who has any experience training at a high level or even fighting and competing, they'll know how rare it is in a human being to be able to do that. To be able to pull that out. Not many people can do that in the world.
No, and that's what's so beautiful about Fight Pass too, is I'd advise everyone to go back and watch that fight. I've watched it 3 times. It's so entertaining. It's unbelievable to me. Like you said, I try to watch for things between that 3rd and 4th round where I'm like, did something happen in the corner? Did the corner say something? What happened that changed that fight so drastically? I mean, we've seen examples of it, just like we talked about with Suakim. I thought for sure he was going to lose against Taliesin. I mean, he got dropped, twice in that fight? I mean, he looked like he was done and out on his feet. And then all of a sudden, here comes the 3rd round, different fighter,
Incredible, yeah. And that kind of comeback, that makes a whole show. That when you see that, it's like, oh my God. How did he do that? All the odds were stacked against him.
And that's why I wonder, in your opinion, outside of maybe the Rodjang fight, do you think that this is going to be Tenshin's toughest task?
Yeah. And to be honest, if he takes his first loss like this, it's going to be a shocker. But it's going to make him a better fighter.
See, and most of the people, I've done a couple other people's podcasts, been guests on there, and everyone's kind of penciled in Tenshin into the finals. I'm watching every match, and
it's not given.
No. This next match for me, if you ask me to pick, I'm 50-50 on it right now, just because of what I saw Soo Kim come back from. Tension could hit him with kicks. He could hit him with a lot. This guy takes a lot and brings out something else in him, you know?
Yeah, it's far from clear cut, and that's what makes it so exciting right now. This whole year for kickboxing is fantastic.
Yeah, well, and that's why I wonder how busy your life is, having to watch all these things. I mean, I'm watching them for fun and to cover them and stuff, but you got to know more than I know about them. I mean, geez, your wife probably is not very happy with you some nights, I'm sure.
No, it's all good. I've got a laptop, so I can sit in the living room with the kids, you know.
Yeah. What about the 61 kilogram tournament in that? You got who's in there? Chan Hung Lee against Umeno and Shiratori against Huan Umeng. I don't know how to say that guy's name.
Mm-hmm. Watch Chang Hyun Lee. He on is it Monday coming on the 1st? April the 1st. He's fighting in knockout in the finals. He takes that, and then he takes the Rise World Series. The whole scene is going to blow up here, and his career is going to skyrocket, and it's going to make everybody who was tussling for those positions, whether it be Rise or knockout, it's going to make them really fired up. They're going to be really fired up.
Are you still calling any knockout?
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, we're not doing an English broadcast for this show, the next show. But there's, I was hoping for that. But I will be there. I'll be announcing. I'll be calling the fighters and trying to get their fire rage. But for the June show and the August show, there is English commentary and broadcast slated for that. So
you know where that'll be broadcast?
I don't know yet, actually, because we were looking at different platforms. We were actually in talks with Fight Pass. Okay. And they were interested, but with some structural changes there, the talks have slowed down a little bit. So I wouldn't rule that out yet. Although I'm not privy to those conversations. I just know that was a possibility on the table. Fight TV, maybe. I don't know. But you might even see Knockout put a couple of free shows out on YouTube.
They've done that before.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to do that, just to show the world, this is what's going on right now. You need to be watching this.
How close are Knockout and Rise? I mean, clearly they share fighters.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is quite interesting because when Knockout was born and when I originally got contracted to them, they were seen as the, sitting above all of these other New Japan Kickboxing, Rise, and all the other kickboxing shows, and bringing the champions together to fight their shows. That was I think it was a kind of unspoken hierarchy. But then Rise was like, you know what? We're gonna do a World Series. So it's immediately blasted some, amazing competition, between the two organizations and of course the fighters. But it's thrown a lot of questions into there. It's like, well, okay, who is going to be the big show now?
Well, and I kind of feel the same way with Shudo and shoot boxing. I mean, they each have so much talent, and some of the talent is shared between different platforms. But I sure hope we get to see that Knockout. I've told Fight TV. I've told the fans. I mean, I think there's enough people that would pay for the same type of subscription services that they offer for wrestling, right? $80 for the whole year of all these wrestling events. I think that there's enough of us that would be interested in something like that. But even just these single events, I mean, I don't know the numbers. I don't know that they've released any, but more people talk to me about that Rise World Series than I've ever heard talk about Rise.
Yeah, that
And a big part is the commentary. You know, people want to see English commentary. I don't mind. I can watch the shit on mute. You know, I don't care.
I'm the same, yeah.
You know, I wanted to ask you a question. Maybe you don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. But Deep Impact used to have a subscription service with Ustream. You know, you pay so much money, I think, for the year. Now Deep Jewels has a really good production team with Abema TV. Why is Deep Impact not? What happened? Do you have any clue what happened? Because now they have one camera on a tripod and they're showing the big screen sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I have no idea what they're doing there. I used to go to Deep shows a little bit more, but I'm just that busy now. I can't focus on it as much as I would like to. There was some chat about having English commentary at some point for their broadcasts, but I think they're just focusing on their Deep Jewels right now, which is it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, I told people maybe before this last Rizin was amazing. The last Pancrase was amazing, but my favorite card of the year so far, honestly, has been Deep Jewels 23. I just found it. I mean, between Kana Watanabe and Kana Asakura's main event in there, I mean, took a lot of damage. There was so many good fights on there and the production value, like I said, is really good. But it was really weird to watch that show and then watch Deep Impact 88 right after that. And, you know, 2 world championship fights, Victor Henry, Yuki Motoya, and then Rocky Martinez and Ryo Nakai. And I'm watching it on a stationary camera that's zooming into a big screen and I like the crowd noise. I don't need commentary, but I just wonder why Abema TV isn't involved with them, you know, but I'm sure you don't have the answers. It's just weird because Deep used to have better production and they used to at least have Japanese commentary, you know?
Yeah, you're right. That Deep show didn't get the attention it deserved at all. You know, it just kind of floated by and that was it. You know,
and there was some amazing matches on there, Stewart. I mean, you know, that would be a good kin to, like I said. I mean, your last Pancrase thing, 20 bouts, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? And you guys had some cancellations. Were those cancellations supposed to be on that card as well?
Yes, it was supposed to be 21.
Holy shit.
It was a long day. We had to pace ourselves.
Well, and that's kind of like a Deep Jewels and then a Deep right after. You know, you're looking at 20-something odd fights, and I know the casual fan can't keep up, but when you're putting, like Deep, for example, was free on YouTube. Pancrase is on UFC Fight Pass. I didn't get to watch it all. I was tired, you know. I felt bad for you because I'm like, if I'm tired just sitting there watching it, what's this guy going through? You know, I had to pause till the next day. There's no option for you to do that, right?
Yeah, my voice suffered for about a week after that.
And so your next event is 305, correct? And that there is a title shot, the 145 title. Can you talk to us about that real quick?
The featherweight?
Yes.
Yeah, so Malagari, he's Argentinian born, but he lives in Brazil, fights out of Brazil, and so he's taken on Isao to decide to amalgamate the titles because Malagari was injured and he couldn't defend it for a while, and Isao was able to take the interim. So this is going to decide who really deserves to own that King of Pancrase featherweight belt.
Where did the words King of Pancrase come from? I really think that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was way back in the day, right? Way back with Bas Rutten and Semi Schilt and all of those guys. Yeah, I mean, of course they're champions, and you know, it's the full title would be King of Pancrase Champion, but there's something about that. There's something special about being King of Pancrase Champion. It's not just like being champion. It has
it draws me in to hear it. I'm excited to hear that. I'm excited for that match. Who's going to be the King of Pancrase? And the match on there is Yuki Kondo against Akihiro Gono. I mean, what a match that's going to be. These guys have 150 fights or something between each other.
It's hard to even imagine, what it's like to have gone through what they have. Nobody can really imagine. I mean, maybe Travis Fulton could, but other than that, nobody has any idea. These guys, they are, and they're still going. They're still training. Are they in the twilight of their careers? Yes. Does that take anything away from their fights? No, they're still excited. They still come out, they still throw down, and they've got a ton of experience and skills. So I think it's a great matchup for them. Gono is they're both so nice. I mean, if you talk to them, they'll give you the time of day. They're so humble, so friendly, and yet they have been through wars like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, so they're two of my favorite fighters. I mean, just again, from exciting matches. I've seen those guys, in so many exciting matches. How many of these do you do? I assume you do fighter interviews beforehand.
Yeah. I don't have enough time to do recorded ones, although ideally I would like to do more of that and translate on the spot.
Could you just get an interview with Kyle Argon, correct?
Yeah, I interviewed Kyle, but these are just unofficial interviews I do in the dressing rooms before they fight.
Okay.
Just to try and get in their head a little bit and get some insight into how they've been training, what's been going on since they last fought, how they're approaching this fight today. I really value that time, although I don't have much of it because we go in, we do the rehearsals, and then we have to be on standby. So basically, I'm just, as soon as I have a free 10 minutes, I'm running through to the back to talk to these guys,
Right. And you're still writing, correct? Do you write some articles still?
That's right. Yeah. Right for a couple of sites when I have to. I want to do more of that actually because
sleep, Stewart.
I do. Yeah. Sometimes, and I do manage to train a little bit now. Again, so that's good.
Well, let me not take too much more of your time. I want to get to some fan questions, but first I wanted to mention that Kyle won his last fight. He's going to be on the podcast with Miyu Yamamoto. She's not. I speak to her all the time, and her English is really good. I'm sure you've spoken to her. Her English is really good.
Yeah, we worked together in Quintet Fight Night 2.
Yeah, which was excellent, and she, she was kind of soft spoken, but she speaks so good. But she's going to bring Kyle on the podcast because she's not confident enough in her English. And I said, bring whoever you want on me. It's I don't care. And plus, having Kyle on, it's a bonus for me. A bunch of things to talk to him about. What I wanted to mention was the Pancrase 306. What there was just a main event announced for that. What was that? That was the Minowa man?
Right, so where are we at with 306? No, that'll be the welterweight King of Pancrase title on the line.
Okay.
Michael França, the Brazilian, he's vacated it to sign with another organization. That was a damn shame because I really wanted to see him defend that again. And of course, as you probably know, Takashi Sato was gunning for that also, and he was basically next in line. But he's off to the UFC now. So it's Tetsuka, Hiroyuki Tetsuka versus Miura. And Miura is a former holder of that title and a pro boxer as well. So this guy's got dangerous hands. And he trains with the beasts out there, Okami and Ken Hasegawa from One Championship. So he's surrounded by some great guys training out at Gen Sports Academy. But Tetsuka, this is everything he's trained for right now. you know, he hasn't been there. Miura's been there,
right?
Hasn't been there, so he has that extra pang of you know, hunger. And he's younger. He's absolutely ripped, as you know. I mean, he always shows up in amazing shape. He trains like a beast. I've actually trained him some strength and conditioning work, and I put him through the paces, and he beasted it. Yeah,
He looks like just a physical specimen. I look at him and I'm ashamed of myself.
He's not like other people. Yeah, he's not like a normal human being. He's fast, he's powerful, and here's the thing: he's known as a striker because he's knocked out a few guys in like 10 seconds, and early in his career, he's absolutely wasted them in no time. But his grappling is actually really good. So we've yet to see that aspect, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins, if he beats Miura by submission.
And that'll be a 5-minute round, correct?
Yes, 5-5. Yeah, that's for the full.
Okay, and you have some really good videos describing not only the Quintet rules but also the Pancrase rules. Do you have videos up on that?
No, I haven't actually. I've not done anything on the Pancrase rules.
I'm gonna be launching a website here really soon, and I would love if I could get you to do that, because you know, I mean, you know, we don't even need to be talking to do that. If you wanted to just record it sometime on your own, or we could both do it or whatever. But I think that would really help, because the different rule sets, even people that go into Rizin and you know, these different organizations, different rules. Are standing elbows allowed, or grounded knees allowed? I just think that what you did for the Quintet Quintet 1, that got a lot of views, and I pointed a lot of people to that so they knew what they were going to see. Because a lot of times we're hearing the ref telling the fighters, and maybe we're hearing Joe Ferraro or Frank Trigg maybe say, hey, elbows are allowed or they're not, and so just to I think for us American fans, that would be an awesome thing if you could do that. And you know, I'd be glad to join you, whatever, you know.
Sure. Actually, I want to do an updated version of the Quintet 1, because there's been some minor changes since the first show. Of course, as you know, it's an evolving thing, and because it's so unique, the rule set is so particular to Quintet and that team aspect, and we have adjusted the rules slightly over the last year. So I need to do an update on that. So that's, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, and if you, you know, I mean, I don't know if you do your own YouTube channel or whatever, but, you know, send me the videos. If we don't do them together, send me the videos. I'll make sure I feature them on the channel, because I think that's a big thing, because coming from the UFC fans, is not sure what they're watching sometimes, you know? I recognize that. I put some people onto things, and I'm like, hey, live on Fight Pass right now is Pancrase 302. And then they get into it and they're like, well, what are the rules? And to have a video to link them to, and you're just really good at explaining things, I think that would be an excellent thing. One of the last things I wanted to ask you before we get to the fan questions is the Minowa Man fight. He is fighting Ishikawa.
Yeah, Eiji Ishikawa, yeah.
And so that will be what, like just a co-main event, or a little ways down on the card at 306?
The order hasn't been set yet for that, but that's a middleweight bout. Two more legends with an absolute stack of fights behind them.
When is the last time we saw either compete in MMA? Because Minowa Man competed at Quintet recently.
Yeah, he was in Quintet Fight Night 2. Where did he compete before that? I mean, he did fight in Pancrase before that, but there was somewhere else I think he fought in between.
It's been a while, though.
Sorry?
Has it been a while? It seems like it's been a while.
I think so, yeah. It has been a while. And same for Eiji Ishikawa. It's been about a year, I think.
Well, I want to make sure fans watch that, because fans of Pride, fans of Dream, fans of Heroes, you know, I mean, these are recognizable names that go back, like you said, for, decades at this point, you know?
Some of these guys were fighting when most fans now were still in their diapers, you know.
Well, and like you said, some people think, oh, these guys in the twilight of his career, you know, nobody. I mean, a lot of people caught flack for the Chuck and Tito thing. That's not what we're talking about here. Look at Fujita, for example. He's on a 3-fight win streak, I believe. I put out a poll who people want to see Rocky Martinez fight, and most of them said, let's get Fujita in there with Rocky Martinez. That's a fun fight. Everyone would love to see that fight. And who's to say that Fujita hasn't had some kind of resurgence? You just don't know. Look at Mirko Cro Cop. I would argue that at 43, 42, you know, before he was forced to retire, 44 here, that he was as good as he ever was. I mean, I could honestly argue that because he was smarter.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When you get that savvy, the experience and that time in the ring or the cage, it's you can't buy that with money. You know, that's something that it carries through for years and years, providing there's no, you know, serious damage to the brain or anything.
Right. All right, I'm going to get to a couple more questions and then fan questions. I just wanted to know personally, what kind of music do you listen to?
Listen to, I would say mostly hip hop, but I've been a fan of old school reggae since the 80s because I was an 80s child in the UK when reggae blew up. So that still has a warm place in my heart.
Do you guys have Scottish hip hop at all that you listen to?
We do, yeah. I actually used to be in a group. We performed live. We were called Scotland Yard MCs. Originally Scotland Yard MCs. Then we changed the name to Yard MCs. And I left the country, and then they won an award for the best newcomers of the year in the UK. And
wow.
A contract with Bjork's label at the time, and So. Yeah, there's a little thing that not a lot of people know. Wow.
Well, if you wouldn't mind sometime when you have some free time, I know you don't have much of it, but shoot me a couple links to something. I love hip hop as well, but I've never heard. I mean, I've heard some UK hip hop. I've heard a little bit of Japanese hip hop. I can't say I've ever heard any Scottish hip hop, and so I'd be really interested. And I'd be interested to hear you as well.
Full on Scottish accents, yeah.
You posted a picture the other day of a tennis court. Where was that at? In the middle of goddamn nowhere.
That was on the Isle of Harris, which is one of the small islands off the west coast of Scotland. And it's a guy I know through the Radio Scotland, actually, I think, who was out. I'm not sure what he's doing, actually, looking for locations or something like that. And he took a photo and posted it, and I was like, yeah, that's so Scotland. Yeah.
Wow. Well, it almost looked well kept as well.
Yeah. Not the lab. I mean, actually used, you know, looked after, you know.
Yeah. Before I forget, how many fighters are in Pancrase? Do you know the amount?
Oh, I don't know how many are on the roster right now. That's yeah.
It's probably over 300.
Could be, yeah.
Somewhere around there, I'd assume, just from rough count.
Yeah, and we have all the Neo Blood tournament guys as well. You know, all the young guns coming through as well.
Yeah. How long do you? I mean, it seems like you have a lot of passion for doing this. You plan to continue what you're doing for a long time?
Yeah. I have no plans at all. I'm slowing down. I'm in it to win it. I'm doing a service to the fighters here and the fans. My main goal has always been the fighters. I want to promote them. I want the world to know about them. I want everybody to see the talent and the level of the martial arts here. It's despite, you know, what people say about JMMA died when Pride died. It never died. It never went away. It was always here. It was always going strong. It's in the bloodline. It's in the DNA. So my job from now and into the future is to promote the fighters.
And you're doing such a good job. You allow a lot, like I've said, with how Rizin does it, how Deep especially used to do it, letting the fans into the fighters' personalities. I mean, something as simple as the ring entrance music is such a huge thing to the fans. But
Yeah.
we don't see that with the UFC event. We get a commercial, they're in the ring, you know, or we get the walkout music that's on super low, and then we got people talking over it. And, you know, you especially, I mean, are a really good commentator at helping the fighters' personalities shine. And I believe that in Japan, that is one of the most important things. I mean, I know more about Japanese fighters, and I've never been to Japan, than I do about American fighters. You know, I seriously, I could name you the walkout music of probably 100 different fighters, because I pay attention. That stuff matters to me, you know.
That's cool. Yeah, it's part of the show.
Yeah. And so you're doing an excellent job at that, Stewart. You were. I tell people all the time, you know when to be quiet, you know when to talk, you know when to be loud. You're excited, you're passionate. I couldn't compliment you enough. That's why I invited you on. This has been nothing but a pleasure. Outside of the Pancrase has had a show in the UK and South Korea. I think that's it. Is that the only 2 shows that they've ever done outside of Japan?
There was one in Hawaii.
Okay. Is there plans ever to do any outside of Japan coming up?
There was chat of a Vegas show, but I don't know when that's going to come to fruition.
All right. Well, if that happens, you let me know. I'm there. I'm not that far away in Colorado here.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. All right. Let me get to a couple fan questions. Well, actually, I got one more thing for you. Your in-cage interviews. What was that like when you got thrust into that? Because you kind of just got thrown into the fire from what I recall.
Yeah. Mr. Sakai was like, all right, you can speak Japanese. Just you get in there and interview them and translate for the cameras. And I was like, okay, you know, because it's one thing being able to translate, but being able to interpret real time is so difficult. And I'm not really, you know, qualified at all in that aspect. I've just learned to do it through being forced to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it was a mind trip sometimes going in there with you know, Russian fighters, Spanish speakers, Brazilian fighters speaking Portuguese, and it's going back and forward from question in English to translate to Japanese, Russian, back to Japanese, back to English.
It's like a game of telephone. You probably didn't even, you know, who knows what the answer really was. But you've done a really good job at that. I'm actually looking for a translator so I could speak to some of these Japanese fighters, you know, one-on-one like me and you are, you know, with the middleman, of course. For the meantime, I've had one of my friends translating my text to them. So I'm going to have some written text interviews on the website coming up, you know, things like that. But I can only imagine how hard it is live in real time, standing in a cage, you know, with only so much time, you know. And what was your most embarrassing moment?
Translating? I don't really.
Was it just maybe overall, if you don't have one translating, just overall commentating?
That's a difficult one, actually, because I've made so many small mistakes. A lot of them would maybe go under the radar. People wouldn't notice. I know every time I make a mistake, I'm like, shit. I watch back and I'm like, yeah, it's up there. But that's how you learn. That's how you get better, you know.
You do watch your shows back and listen to them again?
I try to, yeah. Not all of them now because I don't have so much time, but I definitely, that's something that I incorporate into my ongoing learning thing. You have to self-reflect if you're going to get better, you know. Off the top of my head, when I introduced Eddie Bravo at Quintet 2, I bit my tongue right at the start. And he kind of looked at me like, what was that introduction? And I got through it, you know, and I made it look really smooth, but I knew that
what do you think? What do you think that came from? Just silly accident? I mean, that we all have, or?
Yeah, that. But the fact we didn't have any rehearsal for that, it was basically last minute. It was like, okay, Stuart, you're going to go up there, you're going to introduce Eddie, and then May is going to translate what he says about the 10th planet system and blah 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 blah. So yeah, there was no rehearsal for that at all. So yeah, it's one of these things.
I gotta, say one more thing. You and May together are absolutely amazing. She is really, really good. I mean,
She's come on a long way.
Yeah, and she's amazing as a fighter, number one. But I was so impressed with her commentary. Another girl that I really was Sugiyama. Did the last Deep Jewels event. She was really, really good as well. Easy to listen to. Not too much, not too little.
She commentated in Japanese.
Yes.
Right. I believe Sugiyama does speak English. I don't know how. I've only ever spoken to her in Japanese, but I believe she does speak English because she lived in New York.
Oh, really? Wow.
How well she speaks, I have no idea.
I'll ask around. I know someone like Shinju Eclair, speaks fluently Japanese and English really, really well. I mean, she's another girl that I wish Rizin or somebody would bring in for a guest commentator. I mean, what you guys did with Quintet, Miyu Yamamoto, I thought was really, really interesting. I mean, I don't know how set up that all was because she was getting called out for the next one, but I mean, I was talking to her right before the event. She was super nervous, and I thought she did such a good job. I mean, for never doing something like that, you put me on that spot, and I'm freezing up, man. Well, and that reminds me, Stewart, I've had a couple friends, and for my personal own thing, if you were going to give someone advice as to get to where you're at as far as commentary, what would be the number one thing to work on?
Well, right now, without a doubt, social media. Get your face out there. Do interviews. Do videos, short clips. I mean, look at Robin Black. He has his own niche there, and he's getting a lot of attention for what he does. That's one of the easiest ways in nowadays. I mean, if you know how to manipulate social media and just get yourself out there and spread it around, then that's the foundation. That's the roots of making your name.
Well, and I think you made a really good point with the short clips, the little things that fit on Instagram and Twitter. I'll actually make some of these out of that. Your biting your tongue story is definitely going up there, and so you can expect to see that. All right, let me get to these last couple fan questions. This one's from Pride FC fan. He wants to know, please ask Mr. Fulton when he first heard about the Witness the Fitness movement.
That was a tongue-in-cheek question.
Yeah.
He knows fine well what happened there. So I was using it as a catchphrase on air. When somebody won, I would like, witness the fitness, and I would just weave it into my commentary. And then I used it as a hashtag because I didn't really think that it was a used hashtag. But then I searched the hashtag and I was like, oh. It's doesn't quite fit what I'm doing here. So. Oh
wow! Really, you found it a lot of different places, huh?
Yeah. It's got nothing to do with what I'm doing. So I've stopped using that.
Well, he also said in a serious question, your first MMA experience in Japan and how you became the commentator of Pancrase. We kind of talked about that. What do you think about JMMA's future with one championship and Rizin?
It's healthy. I mean, Rizin does its own thing. One is doing its own thing, and it can only be healthy. There's nobody's suffering here at all. Everybody can gain. One's done a really good job of not storming onto the scene and saying, this is what we are, this is what we're doing, you have to follow us. They've extended a hand of friendship. They've made good ties with organizations and bigger organizations out with the MMA field as well. I see nothing but positivity there from both organizations. I would like to see Rizin push themselves a little bit more, push the fighters a little bit more internationally and get it out there more, because they have exciting cards and the shows are really fun to watch.
Oh man, their production is second to none. I mean, they're amazing. A lot of people see them as the second coming of Pride. But I would say that this Bellator connection is really going to help. I know Horiguchi's coming to fight Caldwell this June 14th here in the States. And so things like that are going to help. I would love to see them also. One thing that one does really great is I don't know that it's even fair, but somebody, some of these fighters fighting with 4-ounce gloves in the Muay Thai, fights, it's been amazing. I mean, those are some.
Personally, I like that. I think it's great. Nothing wrong with that.
Me too. I couldn't say enough about that. That's quite amazing. All right, we got Magic Mark 787 on Twitter says, when will we hear whether or not Tatsuyuki Kume is signed to one?
Kume. So yeah, they're still in talks. So that's between Matt Hume and the go-between here, Ryo Chona and Kume's manager, Mr. Suzuki. So that's that the talks are still underway. So I would imagine they're going to be announcing something pretty soon because it's been a week or so now. So. Okay,
and last one from a fan, PBT. Sorry, fans, I can't get to all of them. I had to ask my own questions. PBT Suave, your favorite fight that you've ever called live?
Oh man, that's a difficult one because there's been a few. Two spring to mind: Rocky Kawamura versus Yuki Nimura, because they fought twice. But the second time they fought was what we call in Scotland a rammy. It was a rammy, an absolute brawl. So you definitely want to go and check that out. They fought in Pancrase 281 and 291.
291 was the second one.
Yeah, 291 was the second one in 2017. But yeah, I'd have to say what still gives me goosebumps, makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up is the two flyweights, Senzo and Wakamatsu, when they fought. That was in February 2018. Pancrase usually doesn't hold a show in January, so this was the first main event of the year, so it was, there's a lot on that, and a lot of expectations, and everybody's kind of fresh into the new year and ready for something. Senzo already had the King of Pancrase title, of course, that he took from Mamoru Yamaguchi back in 2017. Wakamatsu, other than his debut fight, which he lost to a submission, after that he stopped 9 in a row. He put 8 of those away in either the first round or the second round. Absolutely obliterated his way, beasted his way to that title match. Pancrase 293 that was. Watch that. It's one for the ages. Back and forth, fierce exchanges. Wakamatsu had Senzo in trouble in round 4, and it was the championship rounds that it all went absolutely mental. Senzo came out in round 5 after being rocked in round 4, and he summoned up some kind of demon spirit from the depths of his soul, and he finished Wakamatsu with a barrage of punches and knees. But Wakamatsu refused to go down. He took it. He took everything that was thrown at him. Would not quit. The ref saved him. But the damage that both of those guys took in that fight was phenomenal. Just another level of fighting altogether. Everybody, the whole place was on its feet. It was amazing.
Jeez, yeah, that, and then we spoke earlier about the Ishwatari fight. That was one of my favorites. I mean, just as far as one fighter winning to then the other fighter just turning it on, that it's so rare to see someone turn it on in the 4th round after you've kind of been beaten and tired for the first 3 rounds. Last question I got for you personally: who is your favorite fighter or your favorite person to watch? Just personally.
Are we talking all time or
all
now?
Time, yeah.
Oh. Well, Sakuraba has a special place in my heart, without a doubt. Nobody's done what he's done. As far as heavyweights go, Tsuyoshi Kosaka has always been a hero of mine, and I trained with him for a number of years. So,
wow.
He's a great martial artist and a wonderful human being. A guy who doesn't get a lot of attention is Keitaro Nakamura, who fights in the UFC. He's had a peppered career, but he's a great fighter, and he has amazing submission skills. If he takes your back, you know, you're done.
Just you mentioned submission. I am going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for all your time. But that Roberto Satoshi Souza fought Satoru Kitaoka on Rizin just the other day. Everyone was saying he's going to submit him. He's going to submit him. I said Kitaoka hasn't been submitted in 69 fights. Nobody's submitting him. I mean, do you think that this guy's going to finish his career without being submitted?
It's hugely possible.
We've seen him against submission artists, guys that said, I mean, Roberto said, I'm going in there and I'm going to finish him. I've seen that before. I saw Kawajiri say, I'm going to finish him. I'm going to submit him. The weirdest part about Kitaoka is he's never been submitted, but he's also never knocked anybody out.
Yeah.
One of the strangest careers ever, right?
Sure, yeah. But he's one of these guys that absolutely lives and breathes the martial arts. I mean, he sleeps in his gym sometimes, and it's just all he thinks about is training, eating, and then whatever fight's coming.
You know, he has this famous quote that he's always saying, well, I guess I live tomorrow again. Almost like he's disappointed, you know, that he's going to wake up to another day. Yeah. I mean, some of these guys will straight up die in the ring. Stewart, I can't thank you enough for your time. I hope we could do this again. This has been absolutely wonderful. If you put out any of those videos or need my help with any of them at all, a little question and answer thing, maybe we could do that. Whatever you want to do, I really think it would help, and we could put it out there for the fans. I believe Pancrase needs more attention. I believe Japan needs more attention because, to me, I watch Bellator, I watch UFC, I watch everything I can watch, RCC, everything. I watch Russian broadcasts, Polish, everything. And I could tell you that fans here in the States do not understand the level of talent that is in Japan. I mean, personally, to me, Kyoji Horiguchi is the best 25 or 35 pounder in the world. And people will just say, well, he lost to Demetrius Johnson. Put them together right now and let's see what happens. Because Horiguchi, since and same goes for, like we just talked about with some of your Pancrase champions. I'd love to see some of these guys against some of the Bellator champions. Let's see, or some of the UFC champions. Let's see who the best in the world is. But before we can make that assumption, these fans got to watch these other organizations, and with great commentators like you, I believe we can make that happen. And that's my goal personally, is to spread Japan here to the United States. And so I can't thank you enough. You've been so kind with your time. This will be out next week. And can you give your social media?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sag. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your support. Yeah, we do need to get more out there. The English media just doesn't focus in general on what's going on here in Japan, but there's so much, and it's so rich, and it's so deep. And if, guys like yourself doing stuff like this, I've got nothing but love and support for you. Thank you so much, sir. Where can fans follow you? So you get me on S. Fulton MMA on Twitter, and sfulton_MMA on Instagram. And your next event is Pancrase 305? That's right, yeah, Pancrase 305 coming up very soon. And then Rise World Series after that, before 306, I believe? Yes, yeah, that's... No, the World Series is... July, so that will be just after Pancrase 306. So Pancrase 305 is May 26. Okay. Pancrase 306 is June 30, I believe. Yes, June 30th, yes. Rise World Series on July 21st. So yeah, there's loads coming. And more announcements from Quintet coming soon as well. Awesome. Well, keep us updated. We're looking forward to all those events. I'll be tweeting out every single one of them. And anything you need from me, feel free to ask, man. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you for all your time, Stewart. Have a good day, man. Cheers. Cheers, brother.